Morning. Morning, Nat. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, Judith. Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, very excited to be doing our first video log. Well, actually, excited is not the case. More terrified is more like it. But it is exciting to be doing it with you, my very fantastic colleague, and I'm really excited to be doing it for our members, both across silicosis and, of course, asbestos. So welcome, everybody.
Absolutely. Welcome to, as Judith said, to our very first video blog. As we're moving into new and different ways of supporting our members, Judith and I, along with the support care team, which also includes Karen, our nurse, felt that it would be a great idea, along with the ADSS team, of course, as well, including Trevor, Kerry and Kay, to establish these video blogs as a way to connect with our members, in light of the fact that we are no longer able to hold the support groups and the morning teas at this time due to the coronavirus. So we certainly welcome you to these video blogs. There's certainly different platform, as Judith said. Judith and I are very new to this. We've never done it before. So we hope you like this new initiative sort of way of communicating with you guys in one of the many platforms that we're trying at the moment.
Absolutely, Nat. And as we say, so please, we're just going to ask for your forgiveness in advance because we have no idea how many bloopers there are going to be, etc. So as I say, just forgive us in advance. Be kind, be kind. So look, I'll introduce myself first properly. I'm Judith Thomson. I am a social worker with ADSS, but I focus mainly on supporting our clients with silicosis issues, and of course also along with Natalie, you'll have heard me and met me maybe at some of the support team, some of the support teas, and also of course I've been ringing and calling some members during this time because we're, as you know, we're all working from home during this COVID-19 crisis or pandemic. So I'm a clinical social worker. I have experience in palliative care and child protection and all areas really of social work, you know, crossover and intersect, as Nat would agree. And essentially, as she said earlier, it's about supporting people through very difficult times in their lives, which is a privilege for me as a social worker, and also to offer insight and different perspectives on how we can make our experiences better in life. So essentially, that's what we as social workers do. We're here to help, we're here to support, but mainly we're here to listen and to stay connected and to help you guys maintain your connection. Would that be right, Nat?
Absolutely, that's a great summary, Judith, in terms of the social work role, in terms of what we do at the Asbestos Disease Support Society and across into the Silicosis Support Network as well. One of the things that we're also doing in light of the coronavirus as well is helping people to navigate the new pathways and challenges that are occurring all the time in terms of accessing medical treatments. And some of these can be things like the new telehealth systems, when people are accessing their GPs now. So instead of doing one-on-one face-to-face consultations, they're now doing them over the phone or through video link-ups if they actually choose to do that way. So part of our role in terms of Judith and myself is keeping up to date with the latest information that is being released through the news, but particularly we are also very much keeping on top of information that's being released by Queensland Health. We are engaged with telehealth phone conferences, and we have access to a number of different resources that get relayed to us almost daily through different media platforms. And we sift through that information, we see what's applicable to our members, and then we release that information via a letter, via our newsletter, which most of our members will have hopefully have received by now. Also via a direct mail out if appropriate, and then via our Facebook platforms and website as well. So we recognise that these are different times and that the information is coming in different ways to members, but we are certainly doing our best to provide the latest information to you as quickly as we possibly can, and preempting some of that information for you as well.
Absolutely. And look, having the opportunity, our approach initially when Nat and I sat down with Trevor, Kay, and Kerry, and Karen, all of the team, was to really identify where the gaps would be, and of course, with social distancing, or physical distancing, as I like to call it, because social distancing really isn't correct, because even though we are physically apart, which is the smart thing to do, we are actually maintaining our social connections. We're just doing it differently, and as challenging as that is, it is bringing up new and interesting ways to connect and to maintain that connection. And I suppose the big message here for me, from both Nat and I and the rest of the team, is that you guys are not alone. Actually, none of us are alone. Nat is down in Brisbane, I'm up on the Sunshine Coast, and here we are having this lovely conversation with all of our members and reaching out to you by this wonderful new technology. As daunting as it can be, and believe me, it is daunting, but it really offers a new level of sharing and a new level of maintaining connection and adapting to uncertainty. And I hear a lot about uncertainty, as Nat referred to in the newsletter. I spoke about the silicosis clients and living with the uncertainty of a silicosis diagnosis, and how hard that is, never knowing what's coming or what the outcome will be, and you know how long your symptoms may escalate, and not knowing when that's going to happen, etc. And we now are getting a glimpse of what it's like, just a fraction, to live with this kind of uncertainty now in our daily lives. And I have to really acknowledge the clients, all of our clients, members across the board, about how well you traverse living with uncertainty in your daily lives, and what and I speak from this with humility. I'm in awe of your resilience and your ability to be humorous and engage, and all the insights that you offer us so willingly and so generously. So I suppose living with uncertainty in these times with COVID-19 has taught us many things. And now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about particularly was, when you were talking to your members, what are you hearing? What is the resounding message for you at the moment?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Judith. And I just also wanted to reiterate some of the things that you've said in your comments there. One of the things that I'm beginning to get just a very small taste of too is that idea of, in some sense, losing a small amount of control with not being able to do the things that we have once been able to do and move about quite freely, and the restrictions that have been put in place on us. And when I speak with my members, and I certainly get up at morning teas and what have you, and I write my articles in the newsletters, and I talk about perhaps ways of adapting to change with gardening, and saying to members, for example, well, if we can't necessarily, do our gardening on the ground, digging out big trees anymore and weeding and things, then let's look at stand-up gardening beds, and let's look at perhaps ways, if we can't run a 5 kilometres around the block anymore, for example, let's look at different ways of setting new targets for ourselves for the exercise and things. And adapting can be a very tough process, and I think that being adjusting to this coronavirus has been giving me experience with the changes that they need to adapt and adjust to. And as you said, Judith, very rightly, I also am in awe of our members, because it is quite incredible the way that they do adjust and adapt. And I really just want to acknowledge and recognise that, because it is, you guys are teaching us an awful lot of lessons at the moment, and particularly when I'm speaking with members on the phone, I'm learning an incredible amount from you guys at the moment, that's for sure. So I want to thank our members for sharing some of those experiences with me too, because I am gaining a lot of invaluable information from you as well. In terms of the members and the uncertainties and things like that, the members, I think, are doing very well in general at the moment. There has been a lot of uncertainty with regards to members feeling that the hospitals may no longer accept them for their treatments. Now, whether that treatment has to do with respiratory treatments or treatments that are more me, because I'm a social worker with the Asbestos Disease Support Society, and my focus is on particularly supporting members with asbestosis and mesothelioma. A lot of my work at this point in time has been connecting with members with mesothelioma, and there has been a lot of concern that chemotherapy treatments may stop, radiation treatments may stop, or if people require hospital treatments, that there may be no beds available because the beds will be full with people with COVID-19. And I just want to reassure members that that's actually not the case at all. Beds certainly are available, treatments are continuing to occur. And those people that actually need elective surgeries are being prioritised in terms of urgent cases versus non-urgent cases as well. And their needs are certainly being addressed too. If anyone does have any particular queries that they would like answered, we certainly have the resources and the contacts available through Queensland Health to be able to access that information as well to people.
That's great, Nat, and that's really valuable information. And naturally, neither Nat nor I are medical as social workers, and we encourage you always to take any medical concerns or queries directly to your medical specialists. And as Nat said, that's now available in this new form of telehealth. But pick up the phone if you're worried or concerned about anything. To us or to your medical specialists, and that's what we're all here for, particularly during this particular crisis. It can be a very fearful and scary time, and in relation to what you were just saying, Nat, what I'm also hearing is from some of our members are the fear of being in a high-risk category with silicosis or asbestos or its related disease, etc. And what that means for them. And when you're living with an illness like that, and you're always, as we say, and we talk about uncertainty about what's going to happen next, when something like COVID-19 comes along, it can really exacerbate that fear. And I just want to reassure everybody that that's quite normal. We in our everyday lives are feeling anxious and upset and worried for our children or our family and members that we would normally see every day, and we can't right now. I just received a beautiful bouquet of flowers from my gorgeous daughter Rachel, just reminding me that all is well, and that lifts your heart. I said that to Nat earlier. It really lifted my spirits, because even we in our professional roles, we're human as well. So we have the worries and concerns of our families and our friends, and what's going to happen? What's life going to look like after COVID-19? After we get through this, Because I have to say, globally and here in Australia as well, particularly, people are demonstrating such courage and strength and kindness. And I just want to say kindness is a key word in all of this. I'm seeing beautiful examples of it, as you are, Nat. Um, I'm hearing funny stories from members, and I'm not just with my own family sending me lovely flowers, etc., but moments of between children who are reaching out via Zoom and with their friends and sharing bits of homework, etc., and things that they're doing just to keep up that, maintain that connection. And when we talk about, you know, anxiety, and we talk about things like you know, fear and you know, experiencing irritability because we're all locked down, and you know, sometimes despair and fatigue, all of these things, these are all very normal responses. And but it's how we actually then deal with them. And one of the things I would like to talk about, and I know Nata's going to touch on it as well, is how we monitor ourselves in these moments. How do we support ourselves and practice, I suppose, self-care? We in social work often refer to self-care. And we talk about it, but it's very hard to do, isn't it, Nat?
Self-care is one of those tricky things to practice, because we know that we need to do it. We see it in ourselves, but yet there's always something that's more important that needs to be done. One of the things I think that can help, that often gets talked about in the media and by lots of psychologists and other healthcare professionals at the moment, is the need to get into a routine during COVID-19, particularly whilst people are self-isolating as well. So one of the things that I do is after I finish work each day, I've certainly been taking my dogs for an extra long walk. And I have really been noticing that people are very friendly. There's lots of kids riding their bikes on the streets. There's lots of chalk drawings on the side of the road saying we're going to get through this together, with lots of pictures of rainbows and things, which has been lovely. A teddy bear hunt is a huge thing in my neighbourhood at the moment. And so there's lots of teddy bears in people's windows, lots of teddy bears in people's cars, because we live in an area where there's lots of young children, which has been really lovely actually. And there's been lots of smiles and lots of community development in terms of people getting on Facebook and things like that in local community groups, and people sharing their experiences. So I think that certainly getting into a routine can be really very beneficial things. I think also being able to acknowledge when we are feeling anxious, and most people tend to know that, whether they're getting a headache, butterflies in their tummy, whether they're just feeling a bit agitated, a bit twitchy, not sure where to put themselves, things like that. And that's perhaps where we can look at different activities, whether that's you know, whether people want to bake a cake, whether they want to do some reading, colouring in. Mindfulness colouring in can be a beautiful activity to do. It's actually really good for the mind, for the soul, and it gives us something textile to do with our fingers as well. As well as that, we're actually creating something beautiful. So that is something that can be really worthwhile activity to do too. So I think it's just being self-care is a lot about being mindful of yourself, recognizing your own needs, and then actually drawing attention to those and giving yourself permission to follow through on them, by acknowledging the fact that we are in an unprecedented situation. There may be a few people who, I know there's a few members who, for example, have lived through the bombings of World War II and have been through periods of isolation and what have you. But they've said to me, interestingly, that they found that experience to be somewhat easier in some senses because they were with a community of people rather than being by themselves. So really just acknowledge what you need and give yourself permission to do that, I think is important at this stage.
That's really, really great advice. The sound did drop out on this side. I'm hoping it didn't drop out on the whole video on what you were just saying, Nat, but it's so valuable. And to follow up on that, my own self-care, and what I'm talking to members about, and what I'm also suggesting, as Nat said, all of those things are very important. But I'm also suggesting things like check your hopefulness levels as well as your anxiety levels. In the morning, check where you're at. You know, ask yourself, how are you doing? You know, check in again during the day and in the evening. We can, you know, everybody responds differently, and sometimes by acknowledging these feelings, it can help us to regulate them. So, for example, yesterday evening, after I'd had a walk with our dogs, I came back and I realized I was actually feeling a bit edgy, and I actually spoke to my husband a bit, and I said, yeah, I can't quite get what's happening for me here. But I realized when, you know, from supporting people via this new medium, I'm missing the connection of, you know, touching out and reaching an arm or a hug, or, you know, just being in that moment with somebody and sharing that space. And so for me, I'm working very hard on making sure that I can reach across in a different way and in a more creative way. And the other thing I want to touch in it, we all have different coping mechanisms, and some people under acute stress, which this pandemic is really, it can be very stressful. They respond in very logical ways and very practical ways. As Nat said, you know, lots of things to do, you know, making sure that they're very routinized, etc., which is very positive for them. But other people can be quite highly emotional, and it's really finding, if you're living together and you've got one person who's quite practical and another person who's a little bit more emotional, and what I mean by highly emotional is that they feel things quite strongly, and their response is maybe, you know, to be tearful or to be extra exuberant, and, you know, their emotions are a little bit dysregulated, I suppose, or are more heightened than they normally would be. What I'm suggesting is use the differences between you to balance out those perspectives. So in other words, rather than you know, tackling somebody because they're being, you know, super tearful or happy even, try and pause for a moment and say, you know, how do you manage that, and can you come and bring your exuberance and help me dig out this garden bed? So let's share our perspectives and try and create a better outcome. The other thing, a little tip that actually a client, a previous client shared with me, is to use a code word if you're just not able to engage or feeling you just want some alone time. And, you know, if like me, I share my space with two of my children still live at home, and my husband. So there's four of us constantly together in this one space, plus two dogs. And that can be intense, as much as we love each other and enjoy each other's company. So what we do is we employ a code word, and that can be something simple like, you know, time out or me time. And with that, we all know that that person doesn't really feel like engaging, wants their own space, and we will remove ourselves, you know, to another room and give them that space and respect that. And I think that can be very helpful. And it's also goes back to that idea of hopefulness, because I suppose what I'm loving about all of this, and that probably sounds a bit weird, but what I'm loving about all of this is that we're learning to do things differently. And when I talk about hopefulness, it's a possibility of a new way of being. And right now, Nat and I are delivering social work in a new format, which is very alien to us and to most social workers that we would work with, and other allied health. But I suppose what I'm learning and what I'm seeing people doing, what I'm witnessing, is that people are reprioritizing. They're slowing down, and I'm slowing down, and we're communicating differently. Where Trevor, our manager, spoke yesterday about how he shared a bio and Zoom. They had a birthday celebration. They were all in their own homes having a drink together, doing a bit of trivia, and he said it was really wonderful just to maintain that connection and enjoy this new way of communicating. Again, I just, take care of each other, but take care of ourselves while we're doing that, and really get an understanding of what we're feeling, and to feel what we're feeling is actually okay, and manage those behaviors around that. And again, what I'm really loving, and this goes right across all the social media platforms, and even things in my own neighborhood where neighbors waving across the fence, just checking in. How are you going? How is this time for you? What I'm seeing and what I'm feeling very hopeful about for us as a community here in Australia, but worldwide, is that people are actually checking in. They're not just saying, hi, how are you? And not waiting for the answer. They're actually wanting to know how we are and how we're all going with this. So I'm very hopeful about the changes that this is bringing about for us in our communication and our caring of our fellow human beings. What about you, Nat?
So that's great, Judith. There's a lot to take in there.
Yeah.
And there's, what you were saying about being hopeful, and about the self-care strategies and the tips about your family and what have you, and how everybody is working together, I think is fantastic. And different families are working together in different ways, and certainly I know that in my cohort of people that I look after with the asbestos and mesothelioma side of things, a lot of people are aged in their 70s to 90s and are certainly missing their grandchildren, and that textile ability to be able to hug their grandchildren is a very big part of what they're missing at the moment. But yet I've seen the beautiful adaptability of members as well, in terms of some people are Zooming, some people are Skyping in and seeing their grandchildren. And if they're not, then there's old-fashioned things, well, like writing, old-fashioned I say, but writing letters, going back to basics, writing letters backwards and forwards, sharing photographs, pictures, all of those sorts of things. So I agree with you. Whilst there has been this lockdown and this massive change in the way that we do communicate, I also think that it's opening up lots of beautiful and different ways, again, to communicate with people, which I think is just, which I think is great. So I think in today's session, we've certainly covered a lot of interesting topics, different topics for our first introductory session. I certainly hope that our members have gotten a lot out of it, and I'd like to thank our members very much for being patient with us, for learning with us as we introduce this. Judith and I are certainly hoping to do this certainly very regularly, every fortnight. We have a newsletter where we would certainly encourage members to join. That newsletter will be published weekly on a Friday, and that newsletter will be much more social. These video blogs, I guess, are a much more formal sort of platform to share information, whereas the e-newsletter will be more fun. It will be about perhaps sharing stories, tips, your latest travel plans that you may have for when the COVID-19 crisis is over, or reminiscing about travel plans that you've had done. You might like to show a beautiful drawing that perhaps your grandchildren have done for you. It could be sharing different recipes or a jigsaw that you've managed to complete. Again, it's just another platform to try to engage members and let them feel that they are not alone, and that together we will make this through. We will get through the other side. This morning I've noticed on the news that perhaps there could be some easing in restrictions on New South Wales coming up in the future, depending upon how numbers go. So again, we're seeing things change on a daily basis. If you would like to become part of this e-newsletter, it is a buy-in scheme. So please email inquiries@adss.org.au and you will be put on that email list. We will not be sending this out to every member. It is literally just for those members who would like to become part of that community newsletter. So in terms of future video blogs, we'll be looking at different topics like community spirit. We can be looking, if you would like to have input as well in terms of different topics that you may like to have covered. Again, please feel free to contact the Society on inquiries@adss.org.au or contact the Society on 1800 776 412, and we would certainly very much love and welcome your feedback, and we will incorporate that into our next video blog too. So I'll hand you back over to Judith in a minute, but for me I'd like to say thank you for listening. Stay safe, everybody. And Judith and I are literally just a phone call away. So if you would like any support at all, please just call the Society and we will certainly get back to you in a very short period of time.
Thanks, Nat. That's great. And of course, I agree with everything Nat has said. Any resources that we've referred to will be available on both the Silicosis Support Network Facebook page. Please, anybody who hasn't joined, join up. It's a great platform for accessing resources. Also, one of the easy ways to contact me and speak with me directly is via SMS Messenger on the Facebook website, which I monitor during working hours, and I've been having great conversations and really meaningful, gaining meaningful insights from my silicosis cohort that I'm supporting via that method. They're generally, as we know, a much younger cohort, ranging in age from between 18 up to, I think the eldest is about 51. And you know, a little bit more enthusiastic about social media platforms, but so please feel free to follow us up with messages underneath this video log. I am just hoping and have everything crossed that this is recorded properly and we don't have to do it all again, Nat, but I'm hopeful that it has. Like Nat says, please contact us or get involved with the community e-newsletter. I'd love some little funny stories and funny moments that our members are willing to share that we can put up there. I know that we're going to share some moments of that we're experiencing as well, and hopefully that will lift people's spirits. My hope, like Natalie's, is that you've gained something small from this. Remember, all the resources, as I say, will be available across both the ADSS website, Facebook page, and the Silicosis Support Network Facebook page. Our website is actually currently under construction, and we're working hard to make that happen. So, as Nat said, stay safe. This was our first voyage, our maiden voyage into online video blogging. So, hopefully it's worked well. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Easter to you all. Happy holidays to everyone. And warmest wishes from myself and my family, and from Natalie and her family. Best wishes. Take care and stay safe.
Bye, everyone. Happy Easter. Bye.